Crayon on macabre. Some of you have already heard about the macabre. And you might ask, what is this thing we call the macabre? It's you who call it that, not us. We call it the energy envelope. It's what contains your macabre. Some of you have already heard about the macabre, and you might ask, what is this thing we call the macabre? It's you who call it that, not us. We call it the energy envelope. It's what contains your energy. For your energy, it's like skin for your physical body, but also something much greater. Throughout your long history, you've only seen the macabre a few times, but now you see it more often, mistaking it for alien ships. Prophet Elijah called forth his macabre in the field. See 2 Sam 2:11. It sparkled, and you saw wheels within wheels. You saw different colours, saw magnificence as it ascended. What you saw then was the macabre. Each of you, when not here, appears brilliant, in all the grandeur of colours, vibrations, sounds and forms interwoven in the macabre. Being in a biological body, you cannot see or hear all of this. Because the macabre is very multidimensional, I cannot tell you right now what it consists of. In past messages, we've told you that the macabre has ribbons of your colours. This is what speaks to other beings in the universe when they encounter you, where you've been, and what you've accomplished. We've also told you about the Great Hall of Honour, where you receive your new colours for being human on planet Earth. Each of you sitting in this hall and reading these lines has many stripes, indicating that you've visited this earth many times. And the great irony is that you come to this hall and see people whom you supposedly don't recognise, yet they were once your relatives. They're part of your karmic group, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers. Much has happened between you, yet you pass each other by as strangers. This is a remarkable testament to the density of the veil, which prevents you from seeing the truth. For knowing what's really going on would compel you to leave the planet. Oh, our dear ones, we honour you for this. Living on the planet, learning lessons behind the veil, not knowing who you are. For this, we love you very much. And your macabre simply screams in a language that all entities hear, see, feel, and sense. Thus, the macabre is not only your energy envelope, it's also your language. When you move from one place in the universe to another, it happens almost instantly. But for this, your macabre changes its form. And although we won't delve into describing the mechanism of this, it has been talked about in other channeling messages transmitted to you before. Macabre is a transformer. The forms that macabre can take are the subject of pure scientific study, and therein, our dear ones, lies the great irony that your society has decided to separate spirituality from mathematics, geometry, and physics. If you could see the macabre, you would understand that it has the most direct relevance to all of this, because the macabre is an embodiment of geometry and is based on your duodecimal numbering system. All its forms are mathematically divisible by 6, and there are reasons for this that you don't yet see. We speak of the macabre as something majestic and brilliant. It belongs to you, and it is within each of you. But it will not appear on this planet because if you were to receive it, your biological body would simply evaporate. Its energy is simply colossal. But even though you cannot immediately claim your macabre, you can still work on it because it exists on the astral plane. Part of the steps to achieve ascended status are meant for working on its integration with your biological body. Macabre. I am Crayon from the Magnetic Service, and I greet all the people reading this special chapter. In my partner's books, there are constant references to the macabre. I won't repeat them here, and before moving on to new information, I'll say just a few introductory words. Macabre is one of the energy fields accompanying you through all incarnations. True, mostly this field is inactive. It takes a lot of effort to put this field to rest, and even more effort to set it in motion. Macabre is your chariot, on which you can travel through time and space, through all dimensions, your energy field ensuring ascension. But since you have been bound to Earth for a long time, you had to get out of this chariot, and now you need to get back on it again. But before that, the chariot needs to undergo major repairs. All the damages it has accumulated over time need to be fixed. Then the macabre needs to be set in motion again. When a certain speed is reached, you will be allowed to detach from Earth again. However, as I have repeatedly emphasized in other channelings, we ask you to stay and help others. This means that in the process of your development, there will come a day when you will have the opportunity and the right to leave, but also the right to stay. If you choose to stay, the speed of the macabre will not be reduced, quite the opposite, but other measures will be taken to ensure that you can still stay. For example, you will need to anchor yourself with a special anchor in the heart of the earth. Many books have been written about the macabre. However, strictly speaking, there isn't just one macabre. Essentially, there are 12 very different macabres because each light race has its own star chariot. I call it that because you can fly to the stars on it. What we call the macabre here is the result of combining all 12 star chariots. After all, in your body, the properties of all 12 light races have also merged. If you're interested in the properties of each, look at the characteristics of the zodiac signs, and then you'll get a rough idea. To ascend, it's enough to activate one of the 12 merkabas and give it the necessary speed. The first merkaba you activate will belong to your personal light race. That is, it's the race from which you originated, with your initial incarnations. But now, you're all here to uncover and exhaust the full potential of humanity. Therefore, your soul plan gets the opportunity to extend the stay, to set in motion the other 11 merkabas, and accelerate them to the necessary speed. However, even setting just one merkaba in motion takes several years. Often its damages are so significant that repair is impossible without outside help. What can damage the macabre? Well, it's related to the fact that people once tried to ascend, but it didn't work out. The ascension at that time was supposed to happen through solar conjunction, not through the heart. Then they simply didn't know another way. Think about it. Back then, people knew that the macabre was needed for ascension, but they couldn't find the right energy field. So they built an artificial macabre, or each light race built its own macabre. And the whole campaign had a somewhat competitive nature. What is known today as the macabre is an artificial formation made up of 12 layers. It's considered as a whole, but has combined 12 different merkabas. If the layers of the macabre were studied, it would bring about new revolutionary discoveries. To do this, you would first need to decompose it and then reassemble it. This is essentially what's happening. The original divine unity was divided and divided to gain knowledge, and now there's a reverse impulse. Everything is returning to the unity. The source is once again gathering individual parts, and the experience gained during this time is forming a unified picture, both inside and out, both above and below, and vice versa. This external merkaba, the star chariot, was created artificially because at that time, no macabre was found in the external world, although it was known that it was absolutely necessary to ascend. At that time, people didn't look for the macabre within themselves. They didn't even think about it, and yet it is there. True, access to the inner macabre can only be obtained when you take care of the external ones, all 12. This happens automatically. You don't need to do it consciously, but it's useful to know about it. Then it becomes clear why years or even decades are needed to set even one macabre in motion, not to mention all 12. You are all incarnated in this special time because you set as your goal to activate all 12 external merkabas, either in this life or at the latest in the next. Only after this will you gain access to the inner merkaba. The damages to these merkabas or their immobility reflect, like a mirror, the state of your soul. Once you've restored everything to normal, you'll be able to start exploring the inner macabre. In other words, before moving forward, you must first return to the high frequency of vibration you once had. This can be achieved here, on Earth, or elsewhere, but it will happen fastest here, so we strongly recommend Earth. So the macabres was stopped so that you could stay here and repair all the damage incurred, here or elsewhere. Why do you need to come here specifically? Why does everything happen faster here? Earth is truly unique. Only here are so many medicinal plants gathered in one small space. Only here are so many different animals that heal various parts of the body and soul, such as dogs, cats, horses, dolphins, whales. Only here are so many kingdoms nearby, connected by many gates, although mostly many gates are still closed. Here on Earth, there are so many passages to other dimensions like nowhere else. Even the special passages from the far edges of the universe end here. So the interest of the universe is directed towards Earth for many reasons, and here is one of them. Healing of the universe will begin from here. In addition, there are incredibly many healers gathered here. They were awakened first to heal themselves, at least to a certain minimum, and then to move on to other people. Now the external Merkabahs are partially discovered, studied, and marked by various figures of sacred geometry. The inner Merkabah unites all these figures. And from what form are all geometric figures made? Of course, from the flower of life. The inner Merkabah resembles in shape and energy the flower of life, and its anchor is placed in the heart chakra. How can you eliminate damage in the 12 layers of the external Merkabah? For this purpose, the following meditation from the source was created, so that someday you can use these layers. Of course, during your ascension, the inner Merkabah interacts with the surroundings. However, the external Merkabahs can only be used again if the ascension happens this time through the heart, through heart vibration, and the inner Merkabah knows this. So before we turn to the inner Merkabah, you must deal with the legacy of the past, the external Merkabah. That's it. I'm Crayon from the Magnetic Service. Each meditation from this book brings about changes. Some of them are minor, some are major, but each one is important for your awakening process. Repairing the Merkabah belongs to the major measures and entails important consequences. Each meditation brings about an increase in vibration, and in order for you to withstand higher vibrations, it contains necessary instructions that will warn you against mistakes. Remember that these doors lead to multidimensional things, and we often talk about it. I invite you to do something you're not usually asked to do, to believe without trying to understand with your mind, to start feeling what is true instead of proving it in a three-dimensional way. That's what I'm asking you to do. Today's channeling was about chemistry, about the chemistry that seems completely separate from you. Your consciousness is occupied with grand affairs, pondering the world, survival, what's right and what's not, darkness and light, engrossed in thoughts of miraculous things. Your consciousness doesn't think about the liver because you see that everything works as if it's already taken care of, isn't it? Chemistry just does what it does. And if you listen to today's channeling, you might have realized that you should consider changing your perception, where you'll start to contemplate the chemistry of your body, and that would be very right. Research has shown that the molecules of chemical substances that make up your body are surprisingly multidimensional. Indeed, in some experiments by quantum biologists, it was shown that they go beyond 4 and 3 dimensions, and that indeed there is a phenomenon of multidimensionality. This means that your consciousness, which is also multidimensional, can shake hands with your chemistry in a way you never thought of. I asked you to talk to your cellular structure, and now you know why. This is more than just words, dear ones. This is consciousness. Love yourself to the extent that you say, I love you, my cellular structure, and I say it today and tomorrow. Thank you for being with me. We're not going through life together counting time on biological clocks every other day, so that we can live longer, my dear cells. We'll live without stress and do everything we can to support the liver and all other organs. All these things that belong to you consist of chemical components, and they all have multidimensional aspects. Welcome to the Circle of 12, a place where you think about multidimensional things, instantly crossing the bridge and figuratively moving to a place where you can choose to awaken or not. Let me ask the question differently. Are you allowed to touch your soul? I would say this is not the doctrine of any belief system on the planet. The set of principles and views is based more on history and laws. Isn't that so? You are told what you can and cannot do, and little is explained about soul-related questions. But it's all experience, regardless of whether there is belief or not. Is it possible that the new energy that emerged after 2012 is different from the old one? How likely is it that people now have the opportunity and invitations to cross the multidimensional bridge that will connect you with what was once considered the inviolable essence of your soul? Most spiritual leaders teach you that this is not something you can do, that it's too sacred. They will say that your soul belongs to God and your human body is where you are. And only when your life ends and you take your last breath will you reunite with your soul. But for now, it's completely separate from you. Now I tell you that this has never been. You are always connected to your soul, and this huge energy of the Merkabah has always belonged to you. But it wasn't necessarily what you had to think about, so you were always told that it was separate from you. That won't tell you much, unless you want to know more. And here's another premise from Crayon. Your soul and all these things are multidimensional. and deep spirit love is contained within them. You have a choice to see it or not. But when you do, when you touch this door, knock on it, and grab the handle, everything will start to change. Because Spirit sees that you have decided to look and waits for you from you. It depends on whether you believe it or not. And when you start talking to your chemistry, the same thing will happen. You will get an answer. This is not an esoteric promise. This is chemistry, dear. And those who have done it have achieved much because they know how it works. And if you were to meet them, they would tell you that it's real, and that they themselves didn't believe it until they started communicating with the body on a regular basis and saw changes. They were able to feel it, and then they will tell you that their perception changed when they achieved results, and now they know things they didn't know before. They realized what they could do. It was something greater. And again, Crayon's premise. You cannot unknow what you have already learned. There's no delete key in your brain that led you to this multidimensional point. You cannot undo it. Yes, you can deny it, but you cannot undo what you have learned. And then everything starts to happen because there's this experience. You relax and say, I know what I know. It worked for me much better than I thought. And you will thank Spirit for turning on the light so I could see things differently. Before you is a bridge, and I invite you to cross it with me, which is always the beginning of the circle of 12 in this meditation, where my business is always the same. And this sets it apart from channeling, where there is always new information to learn. This is not at all like what the experimental meditation of the circle of 12 is. I will lead you, knowing that it's real, to cross to the other side of its bridge. I know that you will gain an experience that will heal you from diseases, because they cannot stay in your body when you realize the light. And right now, there is no light. I know about things that happened in the past when people realized what they didn't have before. I've seen it, and you've also seen and heard about spontaneous remissions and such things. All this exists on the other side of the bridge, and ultimately, there will be no bridge. Dear ones, I've already told you about this before. The bridge separates the known from the unknown, who you are and who you imagine yourself to be, everything you believe, crossing the bridge and moving into a reality you can't imagine, refuting everything you've been told about it as impossible. You don't cross the bridge by analyzing with your intellect what you know or don't know, and when you come back, you don't recheck it later. That's not what we do. It's all three-dimensional. When you cross the bridge, you open yourself up to new experience and trust everything you don't understand. If you're going to use your intellect, telling yourself that you must see and understand something, understand that it won't work. I've already talked to you about this before, and I want you to cross the bridge with me, approach its middle, and see the fog again, which is always there. This fog hides everything beyond the bridge, so you cannot use your intellect to peek in, turn around, and walk away, saying, I won't go there today. Or yes, I'll go there today because it's right or wrong, the sun shines or not. You are going to enter this fog, ready for the unknown, knowing that it's a safe place because you are about to see yourself more magnificent than you thought. This experience will enhance you, and many fear only because it's so different from what they're used to. Let's go together right now and walk through the fog, holding my hand. On the other side of this bridge is everything you want. That's how multidimensionality works. And don't be surprised if you don't understand everything I tell you, because I speak in metaphors, and I always will. Almost all spirituality is given to you in metaphors, images, and verses that have a figurative meaning. We're going to the theatre and getting ready to walk through the door, which some consider a portal, but is actually an entrance to the unknown. It's your decision, not to understand and to come, but to know that it's real. Can you do it? Not understanding everything but knowing it exists. Can you do it? Most of you do it every day, using high-tech things without understanding how they work, but knowing that they do. Come with me to the round theatre with seats, around the stage below which you are going to ascend after descending the stairs. You don't know who will be in the audience, and it changes from day to day, from time to time, from meditation to meditation, just for accent. If you can't visualize it, just sit and feel it. Spirit wants you to perceive it, so if you can't visualize it, it doesn't mean you can't perceive it. Spirit says, all right, just sit and feel loved. Can you do that? Can't you sit and feel it? But those of you who can visualize anything, I ask you to see the audience arriving. I will tell you who they are, each one of them, knights in this audience, each one having changed their lives because they talked to their selves and achieved spontaneous remission by finding peace where there was none. They erased worries and fears from their lives, forgave all offenders. Each of them is a champion, and thanks to energy they did it and continue to do it daily. There are tens of thousands of them sitting in the audience, watching you because that's why you're here and what you must learn. They sit in the audience, and now is the time to talk to your cells. What will you say to them? Why not start like this? Dear cellular structure, my dear chemistry, I'm finally here to take the helm of the ship because I understand that it's possible. Please join me. Thank you, my dear cellular structure, for the love we share. This is the beginning of our relationship for the rest of our lives. You'll say it's really hard and you can't talk to your cells. And I'll tell you that the audience will support you now. They'll shout out the right words, write them on pieces of paper, and throw them onto the stage. Because they know it's possible. They love you because you're trying to do what they did. Each of them did it. And now they're here to help some of you. They might even come up on stage and start talking to you, persuading you to try it. Why not try? Why not do it? Why don't you hold our hands? For you can heal yourself. They will tell you that they had problems some time ago, but now everything is fine. You have a support audience. You think it's madness, that it's impossible, but you have real support. These people are here now to help you. It's the beginning of something beautiful. Just sit and use their experience to unlock your own magnificence. Prolong your life. Rid yourself of everything that doesn't match your divine origin. Stay here. And so it is. Crayon.